Trump talks publicly about one of Epstein's most prominent accusers, giving new details tonight as to why his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein ended.
He took people, and because he took people, I said, don't do it anymore. You know, they work for me. And he took, beyond that, he took some others. And once he did that, that was the end of him. I didn't like, when they steal people, I don't like it.
Trump was then asked if one of those people that Epstein stole from him was an underage girl at the core of the Epstein case, Virginia Giuffre. She was one of the most outspoken Epstein accusers, and she worked at the spa at Trump's Mar-a-Lago before Epstein hired her.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people, yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know, whatsoever.
Trump saying Giuffre had no complaints about her time at Mar-a-Lago. Of course, she recently died by suicide after a life recovering from what happened to her with Jeffrey Epstein. Giuffre publicly alleged that Epstein trafficked her and forced her to have sex with his friends when she was 17 years old. According to the court document filed by Giuffre in her civil lawsuit against Maxwell, this is the document here, Giuffre claimed that Maxwell, quote, approached Ms. Giuffre while Ms. Giuffre was an underage minor working at the Mar-a-Lago Country Club, recruited the then minor Ms. Giuffre to go to the house of Jeffrey Epstein. Later on in the court document, it notes Giuffre was taken on Epstein's private planes on numerous occasions and trafficked nationally and internationally for the purpose of servicing Epstein and others, including Maxwell, sexually. Now, the court document notes that Giuffre was 16 or 17 at the time. Now, of course, among those Giuffre accused was Prince Andrew. The infamous photo you see there of Giuffre, Prince Andrew, and Ghislaine Maxwell was taken around that time. Prince Andrew paid Giuffre a settlement. Queen Elizabeth stripped her son of his royal standing and military titles as a result of the Epstein affair, even though he has repeatedly denied Giuffre's accusations. But again, Giuffre died by suicide just 3 months ago because of what unfolded in her life. She died just in April. So it is fair to expect that Trump would very clearly know, in the context of her death and all of the Prince Andrew coverage, that her central role in the Epstein case, whether she was one of the employees Epstein stole from him. Not as Trump said today, quote, I don't know, I think she worked at the spa, before eventually backing his way into, yeah, he stole her. Trump is continuing to muddy the waters. And of course, he could change all of this. He could release the Epstein files. He could fight tooth and nail against redactions of the men's names in there for full transparency. But that is not how he's handling it so far. He had first tried to say that the reason for his falling out with Epstein, with whom he spent a lot of time, didn't matter.
I did have a falling out a long time ago. The reason doesn't make any difference.
Well, that was then. Now he says that there is a reason, and it was because Epstein took Trump's employees. Okay, but on that very basic point, there is something that just doesn't add up that is worth mentioning right now. So, see, Epstein took, as Trump says, the 16 or 17-year-old Giuffre from Trump's spa in the year 2000. So if that is why Trump ended his relationship with Epstein, then that relationship would have ended in the year 2000, except it didn't. In 2002, Trump told New York Magazine, and you remember this, he said, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. I mean, again, that comment, including the comment about younger side, was said about Epstein 2 years after Epstein took the underage Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago. So something doesn't add up. And at a time when Trump's base is demanding transparency, Trump's explanations up to this point have been anything but. Elena Trina is live at the White House to begin our coverage tonight. And Elena, I know you've been talking to your sources there. What are you learning tonight?
Yeah, well, one thing, Aaron, about all of this is that the White House, and this is from my conversations even just from moments ago when I was catching up with a White House official, they are acutely aware and very closely tracking all of the attention this is getting. And it's not just the president's team and top advisors that are closely tracking this. It's the president himself. He is very keenly aware, I'm told, of all of the attention that this Epstein case is getting, how his administration is handling it, but also how it's playing. And so that's also, I think, just, behind the scenes kind of influencing some of what we're hearing from the president. Now, I will say the White House does feel like this story has largely died down, particularly from its fever pitch, where it was dominating every single hour and every comment and question that the president was getting. But they also recognize that this is going to come up again. When I talked to sources about what we were hearing from Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys today, they said, look, we know that when the subpoena comes back, when the House is back in session, this is all going to come up again. And so they are strategizing behind the scenes about how to ultimately try and deal with this. Of course, it's been now a month, the majority of a month, that we've seen this really ongoing, but they're still trying to formulate what that response is going to look like. Now, I will say as well, in some of my conversations, a lot of people here at the White House, and essentially all of these conversations I'm having with Trump administration officials, they do believe that the steps that the administration has taken thus far, in the president directing the attorney general to unseal some of the grand jury testimony, I'd note that that is unlikely to be decided until the end of August, but then also, of course, the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell over a period of 2 days. They think those are steps in the right direction because the goal as of now is to try and show as much transparency as they can, and also to try and dispute some of what was laid out in that memo from the Justice Department, which was that this was case closed. Clearly, the case isn't closed, but we're still waiting to see exactly what that looks like, Aaron.
All right, Elena, thank you very much. And now with me, Barry Levine, author of Spider, Inside the Criminal Web of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, extensive reporting over decades on the topic. Ryan Goodman, our legal analyst out front of Just Security, and Tara Palmieri, who has reported extensively on Epstein and Maxwell and had many conversations, extended conversations with Virginia Giuffre. So Barry, you're here with me. You studied this case so closely. All right, I just laid out something you were talking about as you were sitting down here, that if hiring away the then 16 or 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre from the Mar-a-Lago spa was the reason for the falling out, the timeline doesn't add up. Because that was 2000 and Trump made those comments about Epstein to New York Magazine in 2002. But you say that the timeline here is even more skewed than that.
It is even more skewed, Aaron. I mean, we know that a year after the New York Magazine comment about Jeffrey being a terrific guy, that he took part in that birthday book that the Wall Street Journal pointed out. And research shows from investigative reporting from the Miami Herald that Jeffrey Epstein was actually still on the Mar-a-Lago membership logs up to 2007. Okay, so Trump was still getting money from Jeffrey Epstein up till 2007. Jeffrey Epstein was still paying for his membership at Mar-a-Lago, according to the Miami Herald. And that, of course, is a year after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest in Florida in 2006. So
if he kicked him out for being a creep,
yes,
that would have even been a year after that would have been established through a legal suit.
Correct. And there's been other explanations from Trump over the time. There was a fight over a real estate deal about a mansion that was in foreclosure that both he and Jeffrey Epstein were going after. We also heard that a Mar-a-Lago member told Trump that his daughter was questioned by Jeffrey Epstein. So there's been a variety of excuses and reasons why they had that falling out.
So, Tara, you met Virginia Giuffre. You knew her as part of your reporting, and she is at the center of this. When I talk about that picture that I showed of her and Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, anybody watching the show tonight has seen that picture before, right? And everybody knows the price that Prince Andrew has paid. He denies the allegations, but he paid a settlement and lost his royal standing. I want to play for you again, Tara, how Trump talked about Virginia Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein today.
He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
Of course, I'm sure that the Epstein documents would show that to be the case if he puts that out there, right? He could put that out at any point. But Tara, you met her and you talked to her. She died by suicide earlier this year, so we're not going to hear from her with all of this now back in the center stage. Died in April. What's your reaction to what he said?
I think it's disgusting. He's talking about stealing a person like they're a Rolex. I think she would be horrified if she was alive to hear that. And I didn't just talk with Virginia. We traveled all over the country together, reporting her story, corroborating it, because so many people have tried to discredit her for so many years since 2011, since she so bravely came out and told it. And I found her to be very credible. We made sure in our podcast, Broken Jeffrey Epstein, that it was not a single source project. And we found witnesses to help corroborate her story, which sounds so heinous, to be a sex slave for 2 years, that no one could actually believe it. And it's sad to me that in her death, she couldn't be there to say her experience with Donald Trump, which actually is not a terrible one, but that he's using her right now for political purposes. And she hoped that he would help her, actually.